All right. Hello and welcome. Okay. I'm so excited, you guys. Today's going to be awesome. We finally get to bring everything together and talk about the big five mistakes, right? So let me get some slides up here and share this with you. All right. So we are going to be talking about the five profit killing and time sucking mistakes that are keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation, and more importantly, how to avoid them like a pro. That is a bit of a mouthful, right? So let's look at, okay, what does that actually mean? What that actually means is that we're going to be talking about how to create marketing content that will attract more traffic, target like and or target and convert qualified leads. So we want to find the right people and bring them to you. We want to repurpose your existing content so you're saving time, not having to do all of that on your own. And we want to maximize profits. And most importantly, we really want to save time and frustration. These are ultimately things that we all want to do, especially the maximize profit and save time and frustration, right? Okay, and I also want to share, I do have a special bonus. This is for anybody who stays with me through the end of this session. This one is a bit longer than previous sessions, and so I'm just going to share a little bribe with you, right? This guide is something that I created way back in my career, and it proved to be one of our top downloaded guides. It also proved to be so helpful that I've gone back and updated it through the years as digital marketing has changed. So this works really well for having a paper trail of when you're like, okay, how am I going to repurpose this? Where is it going to go? Where am I going to share it? How am I going to distribute it? So you literally gives you step by step, page by page. You enter in, here's where you have your content you want to start with. And then here's all the places your people are hanging out. Here's all the ways that you can repurpose that information. And here's how you're going to share it. So this guide is effectively the walkthrough to creating that, the efficiency to getting that omnipresence factor, which is exactly what you want. So I'm going to share this with you if you stay with me through the end of the session, right? All right, so let's dive in. All about me. Who am I? All right, well, my name's Jen Neal, and I ran other businesses in corporate America for a little over 10 years. And now I've been running my own marketing agency here for going on 13 years, right? And about 3 years ago, I realized that I was tired of running at like building other people's dreams. I wanted to build my own. And just like you, I knew that I wanted to sell things online. I wanted more traffic and leads. And I knew that I could just sell things if I could get more eyeballs on what it is I was trying to do. So I joined a bunch of programs and I was promised a whole bunch of conversion and a whole bunch of traffic and leads. And I got a lot, but I also paid a lot. In fact, more. And I realized that inherently the models are broken. The ways that we are told to go sell things online stack stuff against us. And so we're literally giving our profits away. And I was not okay with this model, right? So I found a way to get the Google juice and hack the Facebook algorithm so that they work together. And all of this gave us like nearly an 800% increase in organic traffic. That's free search traffic to our website. And we were able to show a 50% reduction in ad spend. So it was amazing, absolutely amazing. All right, so let's look at why this works, because it's all about Formula One. Just kidding. For those of you that don't know, Formula One is my absolute favorite sport. I watch every race and I consider every other sport, I just call it sports brawl. But why do I have Formula One on here aside from the fact that I needed an excuse to share a car on my webinar, right? But what I wanted to do was really to outline that kind of like a Formula One car, kind of like having that really hot car just sitting in the garage. You have created content in the past that is just sitting on your shelf. It's not working for you. It's not getting you on track. It's not giving you the wins that you're after. So my goal from this session is I want to help you get more qualified leads. I want to help you get those eyeballs to your offer without handing over your profits to Facebook or an ad agency or hiring somebody and paying them to figure out results or to figure out different processes that are ultimately not going to lead to any results. Like we don't want to do that. So in order to get you across the finish line, the only way for you to get more qualified leads and get more eyeballs on your offer and save all that profit is through content activation. It's exactly what we're going to cover today. And I'm going to be teaching you how to set up a leads machine in your business using the content that you've already created. And remember, this is a team sport. Doing all of this is not something that you should be doing all on your own. It's something you definitely want to make sure you're sharing with your team. So we will be sharing the replay of this. You can absolutely share it with your team. See if it's something that you guys can all use to help create that organic leads machine. And this session will be a bit longer. So if you want to just catch the replay here, catch the replay, 2x me. I'm going to keep it as short as I can, but I want to make sure that we get through the information to be able to share exactly these 5 massive mistakes. These are the traps that we fall into. And it's literally taken me 3 years to figure out how to navigate these traps. I want to share that information with you. So it's totally worth the little bit of time that we're going to spend together here online, right? And remember, I do have this awesome guide that I will share with you here at the end of the session for those of you that stick around. All right, so let's get started with a recap. So our very first session was the 6 digital marketing trends that you can't ignore, and how to use them to attract and sell the people that are most likely to buy from you. Which what we learned in this session was really it's all about standing out online. And we know the best way to stand out online is from video. Starting from video is the best place to start, not required. It just helps you to be much more authentic and transparent, tell those stories. And so check out session number 1 if you haven't already. It's fantastic information. All right, so we also know omni-channel marketing. So we talked about having that omni-channel presence. Don't worry, it's a big word. I will be explaining it here in just a couple of minutes. And branding and alignment, having consistent branding and messaging out there where your customers are hanging out. Personalizing as much as possible the marketing and the messaging that's going to them based on where they are at in the customer journey. Using conversational marketing in any ways that you can. And the big ticket is ultimately content marketing. Content marketing is the Google juice, and the Google juice is totally worth the squeeze. It is absolutely imperative to creating that omni-channel presence, right? Okay, so that seems like an awful lot of stuff, and it can make you feel a little bit crazy, right? So I told you a little bit about where I came from, and also I just want to share that like I'm a total visual person. So if I knew that the model we're given does not work, I wanted to figure out why and what would work. So I actually mapped all of this out in a visual way. I totally want to share this with you. All right, here we go. This is the content activation formula, and it looks a little weird and daunting. And in fact, it has actually, I've shared this quite a few times, and it kind of got dubbed like the Death Star, sort of because I'm a nerd, but it looks kind of like the Millennium Falcon or the Death Star, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna walk through this and explain it, and you'll totally get it by the end, I promise. All right, so here we go. If you picture right here, this is your world. This is your business world. And ultimately out here is where our people are hanging out. And so what we want to do is we want to create a way to connect them. This is in your messaging. This is your marketing. This is your core content, what we're talking about, right? We want to find a way to make a connection between where our people are hanging out and our business. So then what we want to do is that's a small little line, right? We want to optimize this. We want to create a bigger tractor beam that's pulling people in. And this optimization is most easily done through content repurposing. So we're taking something that works and we're maximizing it. We're maximizing the efficiency of it, right? Then out where people are, we want to get them to take notice. And a lot of times let me get my Slack off here. A lot of times the taking notice is what this can be ads, this can be any kind of pattern interrupt, mailings, those kinds of things. But we want to get them to actually we want to catch their attention. This is the hooky part, right? Then once we have their attention, we want to get them to turn their attention off of where they're at and into our world. We want them to really start engaging with this core content that we've repurposed, right? We want to pull them into our world and have them absorb our messaging and really get warmed up with who we are and how we can help. All right. So now if you picture out here, these little satellites out here think of them as kind of your value ladder. So we have some opt-ins down here. We have maybe like a low end item and all the way up to like a high ticket item. And ultimately what we want to do is we want to get people from our world out into one of these places or more, right? So what that means is we want to get them to engage. And remember that a value ladder doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's just going to come right through an opt-in. If they come in here and they're warmed up, they may be like, ooh, this program is exactly what I need. But what we want to do is get them to engage. And by engage, they're trading some form of value, either an email address or money. And that's what we want to do. We want to get them to actually move from our free material into something that's going to start moving them through our paid programs, because that's what we're doing, is we're actually trying to profit from all of this, right? Okay, so then what we have is our nurture. So there are way too many marketers that I have seen that market each of these little individual things like silos and don't actually share a nurture in between here. So once you actually have people's information, let them know that, hey, there's these other programs. We want to make them aware of all the ways that you can help them, right? And then finally, what we want to do is we want to track what's going on. So everything out here, everything that's happening here and here and here, like we want to know what those numbers are. How well are each of these things working? And use that to help optimize. So we're going to track our stuff and use that to help optimize what's happening. All of this basically to help strengthen our little marketing laser beam and ultimately fill this up, right? That's what we're after. So I hope that kind of makes a little bit more visual sense, and share with you, in case it's difficult to remember kind of what each of these things mean. We're going to look at remember, we're creating a connection here. We are optimizing through content repurposing. We're optimizing our results. We're getting them to notice us. We're getting them to turn their attention to our world and get sucked in by our laser beam. We're getting them to engage in here, either by email or payment. And we're nurturing them with our content to make sure that they're aware of all the ways we can help them. And we are tracking everything that's happening and using that to help effectively optimize what's going on. So all of this, in case you didn't catch it, CONTENT, content activation formula. Much more easy to remember, right? Pretty cool. I love this. Such a visual person. It really helps me out to kind of look back at it and say, oh, okay, now I understand what's happening. All right. So at first I thought, actually, let me go back one slide here. At first that I thought that creating this laser beam was all about just content repurposing. especially for omnipresence, right? And so I focused hardcore out here on thinking my omnipresence means I have to be on all of the social channels all at one time, right? And so I actually thought, okay, I'm going to take my core content and I am going to um, I'm going to repurpose all of it so that I'm all the social platforms, right? And it worked. And I actually created a podcast that we have called the Content Toolbox so that I had something to repurpose, right? So I started off here and we put content out on quite a few of the social channels, right? When I first started this though, here's what happened. We ended up with a gigantic mess because because it turns out when you're starting from one core content and you're creating like 30 or 40 different social posts and emails and tips and infographics and all these different things that are coming out of it, you have to have a really clear system in order to be able to effectively repurpose without ending up like we had stuff that was we were missing graphics, or we did the same thing twice, or we posted the same thing multiple times. And what ultimately this ended up in was creating a content repurposing framework, which was session number 2 from the masterclass. So let's just review that one really quick. In this one, we actually went through the steps. So in here, you're going to start with character, which is you creating your core content, right? And then from that, you move into copy, which that is where we create all the little sound bites that are going to become posts. This is also now where we start to create the Google Juice, right? Once we have all of the content, we move into creative and come up with all of the digital media and all of the assets and things that we're going to be using. And then we move into compile, where we're pulling everything together and making sure that this matches this and we have everything we need for all of our posts. We move into calendaring, where we are posting everything out on social, right? And then catalog is we're looking at our numbers. So I created this in a course. This is one of those things that I threw against the wall and it stuck, and it was awesome. This is I sold this as the social content machine. At that point, I thought that it was all about just social omnipresence, right? And I created this program and I had over 200 students, which was really, really awesome. But I started to realize that something was really wrong. And that leads me to the number 5 profit killing and time sucking mistake, keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation, which is rotten repurposing. Rotten repurposing is repurposing content that you think is going to perform well. So it's the wrong content, because as core content, if it didn't resonate originally, it's probably not going to resonate repurposed. And so while having that consistent social presence is really important, if you are repurposing stuff that didn't work, then it actually ends up landing you in the spam category. Like social channels actually think you're spam. And so you end up looking like a creeper, right? And we don't want that. That's why I have a creeper here. So the other thing that I realized was that posting for the sake of posting without having any place that you're leading people to, or so no call to action link, right? Or vice versa, just posting all these posts and sending people straight into your sales page, those aren't working. And so what I realized is that I needed a 2.0 course, and to really better explain like why you want to send the traffic to the right places. So let's look at how to avoid this number 5 mistake of profit killing and time sucking mistake that's keeping you from successful content activation, to avoid rotten repurposing. What we want to do is repurpose content that you know has gotten, engagement as core content. You want to start with something that works first. You want to make the most of your links point out to a social optimized blog or article. You're going to give value first. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. And we want to balance this content so that you're including a balance of great informational content, like 60% that where you're providing value up front, 20% where you're curating content, like you're sharing other people's relevant similar links, and 20% promotional. So this becomes a good balance in terms of creating content that's actually going to get attention and bring people in, right? So we talked a little bit about SEO and Google Juice. So let's dive into why the Google Juice matters. Okay. Isn't this cute? I love this. Google Juice I did not create this. I found this online, but where this came from is over the years, I have met plenty of marketers and as well as bloggers. And in fact, I have a really good friend, Holly Homer, who's been on my podcast. And you've probably heard me talk about her before. She started a blog way, way, way back and now has the top blog for kids activities, right? She has the top website. She has a lot of Google Juice, right? And so as I started really talking with her, I'm like, okay, the power of blogging is that they get tons and tons of traffic for super cheap. And what I noticed is that the way bloggers operate and the way marketers operate, there is a huge divide between these two, right? And so I discovered that bloggers have this like superhuman ability to be able to drive traffic for literally pennies or like fractions of a penny, right? And the vast majority of them though are like, they're not good at monetizing their traffic. So, think about when you look up an apple pie recipe and you go there and there's like 15 million ads and pop-up ads for different things, like different affiliate links and stuff like that. So that's how most of them will monetize their own traffic. But as marketers, we're really good at selling. We're just not good with traffic, right? So in between those, like each different community sort of has their own strengths and weaknesses. And it was in that in between, that divide, that I discovered that there was this huge opportunity. And there should be a way to bridge the gap, like take the blogging strategies and apply it to marketers so that we can still get some of that super cheap traffic without spending tons to get that traffic. So this is why the Google Juice matters so, so, so much. All right, so let's look at this in terms of numbers, right? Bloggers will typically make between a penny and like 10 cents per page view based on those ads and stuff that we talked about. So a blog with 1,000 page views a month can make between like $10 and $100 per month. And a blog with 100,000 page views per month, which by the way, can be pretty common. They can make up to like $10,000 a month, which sounds like a lot and explains why there are so many bloggers. But it's really not that much when you think about it. So compare this same information to sending 100,000 unique visitors to a sales page converting at 2%. So let's start this here with an average cart value of $67 and conversion rate of 2%, which sadly is pretty common, right? If we send 100,000 unique visitors to that page, that is $134,000, which is way more than 10,000, right? But that's also not the full story. So we will circle back to this here in just a second. So let's look at why this works, okay? If you think back to the profit killing and time sucking mistake, keeping you from successful content activation, mistake number 5, rotten repurposing. Why is it bad? Because it's not following the flow of traffic. So if we are just repurposing bad content that actually isn't even we're actually creating a chasm in here, right? If it's not connecting, if it doesn't actually connect and work, we're not actually making that connection. Or if we're posting links on the rotten repurposing that just goes straight to a sales page, instead of bringing them off on like a nice gentle off ramp, we're like, oh no, we're just gonna like transport you right over here and expect you to buy. So this is why blogging works, because people are like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me check out more, right? So then they Google search and get sucked into somebody's website. This is the same tractor beam methodology we want for our business. It's absolutely key. Now, once you understand this, I want you to promise me that you're not going to use this technology for bad. We do not want to be bad like the Death Star. We want to use this idea for good, and do not take advantage of it, because it's super powerful, right? All right, so let's look at it in action. This is our blog. So we started, cobbler's shoes. We did not publish all of the blogs on time. We didn't end up doing them for all of our posts yet. But what I did find out, this is over the course of about 3 months, 4 months, something like that. And this is our monthly traffic, right? So normally the pages on your site, this one up here with just the slash, is your homepage. Like this is the one that's going to be the highest visited for most people. And then typically you're going to have your programs page and your about and contact pages be some of the other top performing ones. But if you look here, we actually, even if just getting started, this is an organic traffic reach. This is not paid. This is people who found us by searching for these different terms, right? So in here, we had 119 new visitors just to our blog. We had 101 people that came into this post, right? And so on and so forth. These started showing up as really great organic traffic. Like it was starting that tractor beam, right? Totally worked. We were super excited. So we also tried this with another customer. And we posted on this customer site for about 3 months. And what we saw for her was a massive increase, nearly 800%, right? In terms of sessions and users. And this over here is actually even more exciting. We're looking at the increases in the numbers of pages per session and the average session duration, meaning they're staying on the site reading our information, which is ultimately what we want. So organic traffic is totally the key. We need the Google juice. I'm going to share some stats with you, but honestly, like content marketing, which is what we're talking about. We want to take great content and share that has a much lower upfront cost, and ultimately it has a much larger return on the back end, right? If you think about it, there's like 615 million devices that now use ad blockers, which means your ads, if you're running ads, are probably not being seen by some people. This stat right here on this slide, small businesses with blogs get 126% more growth than small businesses without. If you think about this amazingness, and what we're showing is, if you think about it, anytime it makes sense, because we know people are coming here, and if we're trying to push them straight out here, there's a disconnect. So if we bring them through here and they warm up and they engage when they're ready, this is ultimately what content marketing looks like. Content marketing itself is 6 times more effective than traditional straight up ads. It's super, super effective. And this is why bloggers work. I'm going to stop belaboring the point, but it's literally like 77% of internet users read blogs. And you yourself have probably read a blog. So like, let's picture you're out here and you're listening to a podcast, or you're on Facebook or something, and you're like, oh, that person sounds really interesting, or that program sounds pretty exciting. Okay. I don't want to click on their link because I don't want to get stuck right over here, because this is the pattern, right? So we've been trained that, oh, this is a disconnect. So what we do is we go backdoor research. And if you backdoor research and find information on the person or the program that you're looking at, right? Ultimately, that's instant authority. That's literally, you're like, wait, is this thing really what I think it is? Like, do I want, I want to learn more. So you come in here and you get sucked in and you're like, oh yeah, instant authority. However, if you can't find that person, then now you are problem aware. You're like, oh, I actually want to know more about this. So now you're problem aware. So now this person spent money on an ad, which you saw, and you came and backdoor researched it. And then you find their competition and you're like, oh, this looks really interesting. I think I'll go buy this. So you're going through the same, like you got sucked into someone else's tractor beam. And that is super, super common. This is what's happening in the world right now. So if you are not showing up in what's happening with organic search, if you are not being shown authority by the Google, then you're missing out, and you will miss out on more leads and traffic that's coming to your site. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is my 2.0. I totally have it. We need to talk about getting the Google juice, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna host these workshops, and I'm gonna teach people how to do this, right? I'm gonna tell marketers how they can create a blog and create organic traffic. And like, this is what happened. Was total crickets. Because what people really wanted was, if I'm going to invest all this time and effort into what's going on here, I want to see immediate return, right? So that leads me to the number 4 profit killing and time sucking mistake that's keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation, which is organic only. Organic traffic is absolutely important. We know this. Consistently building your Google authority or your Google juice will end up outperforming any other traffic source after a few years. And having that organic strategy will help support what's going on with social, it will help support what's going on with paid. But only focusing on organic strategies, it doesn't yield an immediate return with all of that energy that's happening. So what matters in the beginning is cash flow and organic traffic. I mean, 116, 300 new visits to our blog, that's helpful, but that's not going to scale the business in the way that we want. So what we want to look at is, how do we bolster this message and get more people to take notice, to get more people into our tractor beam and pulled into our world, right? That is what we want to look at. So the organic only cure to avoid this profit killing and time sucking mistake keeping you from successful content activation, what you want to look at is focus on creating value-based content that will attract that organic traffic and build on your organic vault. You want to pump your organic traffic full of opt-ins or sales. You want to have calls to action inside of there. Remember all those little annoying ads? You're going to do fewer ads so you're not annoying, number 1. Number 2, you are going to put in calls to action that are going to drive people straight to your programs or to your opt-ins, right? And then most importantly, we're going to use that content to support your social posts and paid traffic, right? Other traffic sources. So you can use guest blogging, social posts. You want to make sure that you're using this information as the place that you're driving people to. So we're bringing them through that warmed up path, letting them engage when they're ready instead of dropping them right into a funnel, right? Okay, so I mentioned paid traffic here a few times. So let's talk about paid traffic. Facebook ads, the bane of most of our existence, right? I'm using Facebook as the example here because it is the easiest place for people to get into. There are plenty of paid traffic methods for sure. So you can get into YouTube, you can do Google ads, you can do all sorts of partnership promotions, blah, blah, blah. But let's use Facebook ads here as the start, because that's where most businesses typically start, right? All right, so let's look at our blogging comparison here and do a little bit of math. So the problem is that when we looked at our number here of our average order value, blah, 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 we got $134,000. The problem is that most marketers are paying this like king's ransom to get these 100,000 visitors. In fact, those 100,000 visitors could very well have a cost per click of $1, which is actually quite cheap. It's actually pretty realistic. So let's look at that math. If we look at 100,000 unique visitors to a VSL page, a sales page, whatever, right? At $1 per click, with 100,000 unique visitors, right? It's going to cost us $100,000 that you're giving to the Zuck. I mean, why would we give him more money? He already has enough, right? So this same problem, it totally exists. And in fact, this is just traffic spend. This is not even management spend or all of the setup and blah, 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 right? This is a very common looking problem. And what we were like, oh, I'm in $134,000. Okay, yeah, but really, I only made $34,000 in profit. And this is a pretty common story. In fact, it happened to me, right? This is when I launched the social content machine. Here's what happened. I knew it was selling. It was amazing. I had an ad agency that was running stuff for me, and I lost over $47,000 with a $12,000 return. That is negative math, my friends. That is not the kind that we want to have, right? I love that Facebook ad agencies are out there to help us. I personally am not okay with a 1% conversion. I am not okay with giving away more of my profits to ad agency and to Facebook, to Zuckerberg. I don't want to do that. And so what I realized was that paid traffic is absolutely essential, but it had to be a better way. There had to be a better way to do this. And I really hate the ad agency model because I just didn't want to waste money, but I did want to increase my exposure. So I wanted to figure out how do I hack this algorithm, right? So I went and I actually paid attention to how are the social platforms working. So most of the platforms, here's what they want to do. They want to keep traffic on their site. And if they have to send people off of their platform, then they want to be known as kind of their own little search engine. They want to be known as a good source of information. So they support and validate when you're sending people to a place that is, you're giving first, you're giving good information, you're creating good, valuable content instead of just trying to sell people right away. So that's when it comes back to the Google juice really seems to be the key. These, in fact, my friend Holly Homer that I talked about, this is how she does a lot of her stuff. She publishes all the blogs. She creates organic posts that are sending traffic to the blog. So remember, we talked about where you're sending people totally matters. This is why, because the social platforms know the content that you're sending people to. So if you look at ad agencies, traditional Facebook ad agencies, they are literally telling Facebook that I want to take traffic from your site and convert them over here. I want to go sell them something. And Facebook is like, okay, we can do that, but we're going to charge you more. And that's why these conversion ads cost so much more. So as an example, we wanted to see this in action. So one of the companies that we tested with, they were working with another ad agency, and they were consistently paying about $60 per lead, which is quite common actually to get a qualified lead. A lot of times it's $60 to, I don't know, $150 per lead, because all of the click-throughs that come through are not always going to convert and blah, 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 right? So, and because you're taking people from where they're getting pattern interrupted and dropping them right directly into your sales page without going through that path. So can we get leads for less? Yes. So in less than 2 months, we ran our system where we created that good organic content. Then we created posts that said, hey, we want to go get this awesome organic content, right? And so here's what we did. We ended up, in less than 2 months, we had 625 leads at an average of $724 per lead. In fact, we had to turn this one off because the company could not follow up with all of the leads. That's pretty insane, right? All right, so this works, right? And then we wanted to look at this in kind of a traditional model, like for a launch, right? So this is for a webinar. This is from a traditional ad agency. This is over about 3 weeks. They spent almost $2,500. And they're getting, average cost per click of about $8.64. And a click-through rate here of averaging a little under 1%. On average, you want to make sure that your general rule of thumb, we're trying to get over 1% here, right? Okay, so if we look at, this is the same ad agency. So here's their click-through rates, cost per click, $3, and they ended up with 11 registered people for the webinar. So $2,500 ad spend, 11 people registered for the webinar. Anybody else ever experienced this? It's actually more common than should be, frighteningly enough. Okay, so we took the same thing. We took that webinar and we repurposed it, and we created amazing, valuable content up front with calls to action embedded. We spent almost the same. We spent a little less, just over $2,000. And our click-through rates were on average higher. We had one that was not performing super well, but up to almost 5% here. And if we look at our cost per click, on average was 23 cents. So here's what happened. With this, we ended up bringing in 38 leads straight into her system, and 12 of them registered for the webinar. So we spent $500 less, and we got 38 leads into her CRM, and more people registered for the webinar. So if we look at it here side by side, that's actually a 76% reduction in lead acquisition costs, which is pretty phenomenal, especially for all we did was repurpose one webinar. That's all we started with, right? So here's why it worked. Because we took what was a sales page information and we converted it into free info here where we're talking about awesome stuff. And then we created some paid ads out here to support our tractor beam. We pulled people in. They're like, oh yeah, I want some of this, right? So they engaged. They opted in. They came in. And we introduced them to the webinar, and 12 of them registered for the webinar. Pretty simple the way that works, right? Starting to make a lot of sense. All right. So even with just where we're at right now, just these common mistakes and how to avoid these, that can absolutely catapult your business way beyond what you're doing already. We know that running ads is essential, right? And if we look at, in terms of think about your business on a scalability, what we want is down here, 1 or 2, we're figuring out what we're going to sell. And in here we're selling, most people are probably in here where they're kind of trying to start to transition out of selling one-to-one to the selling one-to-many. And this is where it becomes difficult, right? So we start to scale this one-to-many. And once it's really converting, we're like, oh yeah, I want to go all the way to 10, right? So you're going to hire an ad agency. And I'm going to tell you that what the agency is doing, running Facebook ads, is what you think is the top, they're only getting you to a level 8 because you have a model that works. Now, let me be clear. This model works. There are plenty of $1 million businesses running this model, and it's working. They put money in, they get more money out. It's a fantastic machine. What I'm telling you is that you're missing the last of the juice, because how many times have you gone and backdoor researched? How many times have you seen, oh, that's cool, but I want to go look up the info on my own terms, right? So what we want to do is get you from an 8 to a 10. And ultimately, this is the number 3 profit killing and time sucking mistake that's keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation. And that is the paid Passover. And so that is either avoiding using Facebook ads or any kind of paid ads altogether, or only landing at a level 8 and not capitalizing on that last 20%, the juiciest part, right? Okay, so let's look at some examples here. All right, so this is somebody that we worked with here who was running a JV launch, sharing a comparison. So the reason that there's two different boxes here, and I will show you guys the information, but there was the stuff in red is what a traditional ad agency was doing, and the stuff in purple, shocker, is what we were running, right? So we sort of split test this to see, does this model support, even if this is a JV launch. So this wasn't even their own stuff. This was, they were sending traffic to another program. So here's what this looks like. Okay. The traditional ad agency, here's what they did. They spent nearly $2,400 in about 3 weeks. And they're averaging about $1.91 cost per click. Not too bad, actually, as things go, right? Now, what we did was we set up our same formula with the content activation formula, and we spent less and we had fewer clicks, but we were averaging $1 per click. So what that is a 52% reduction in costs. That is pretty awesome, right? I loved it. Okay, now here's the really awesome part. So this was as a JV launch goes, right? Part of competition. So here's what this model did. This is amazing. So they ended up landing number 3, right? Beating out, this is my favorite part, Jeff Walker and Ryan Levesque. Pretty freaking awesome. 3rd place. Amazing. All right. So why does that work? Because we took the content that even the JV had. We created our own article. We created our own videos. We created our own nurture content that we went out here and got some ads to get people's attention and brought them in here. Instead of driving them straight to an opt-in, straight to a sales page, we're like, hey, I want to introduce you to my friend. And here's why, because there's this awesome information. It's really valuable. So they came in here and then they clicked the click-through or the call to action, right? And they ended up not in our funnel, but in the other funnel. But it's okay because they're warmed up, right? So in order to avoid the number 3 profit killing and time sucking mistake, keeping you from successful content activation, this is the paid Passover cure. So you want to incorporate paid traffic as part of your content activation strategy, even at a minimal level. Minimal being, it can be, $100 to $500 a month, something pretty minimal. You're going to ramp it up more when you're doing a launch or something. But you want to use your organic SEO content as the call to action, and that can reduce your ad spend by 50% or more. And more importantly, if you're relying on just using an ad agency and primarily relying on ad traffic, that strategy is working, but you are ultimately missing out on the last 20% to move that needle and take you from a level 8 to a level 10. So this leads me into the next number 2 mistake, right? So what we want to do is I'm showing you guys what these numbers mean. And all the time, I ask people, what's your ROI? How well is that converting? What's your, what kind of conversion are you getting from your emails? How well is your content performing? All of those things. And I ask business owners, and this is what all too often happens. No idea. Absolutely no idea. There are too many businesses out there running based on your gut feel and not even knowing what your numbers are. So that is the number 2 profit killing and time sucking mistake, keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation. This is the numbers neglect. If you do not know what your numbers are and what your target is, how can you even know if you hit it or you're close or how well you did? You have to know those numbers. And I'm not just talking revenue. There are plenty of other things to pay attention to, like conversion rates, lifetime customer values, open rates, engagement rates, top posts, website traffic, top performing content, so much more, right? Having a metrics dashboard to track your numbers and your key indicators is so absolutely essential to moving the needle towards your target. You have to know where you're going, right? The problem is, this is what it looks like behind the scenes to come up with that awesome, amazing numbers dashboard. So when we have, what's happening is like, this is, you've got your Facebook ad stuff and all of your post reporting, and you've got Google Analytics, right? And you've got your email open rates, and you've got social stats, you've got your funnel stats. How well are people, when people are hitting your website, how many of them are opting in? Like, there's so much to understand, right? That this is not something that you can and should be tracking, and to know what's going on here, right? So this is so important, because what we're talking about is, this is the tracking part where we're paying attention to, how well is this working? How well is the nurture working? How well is this opt-in working? How well is this content out here working? How well is this post working? How are we getting people to engage, right? All of this stuff, you cannot run a Death Star or a marketing star, if we don't want it to be negative, right? But you can't run this whole thing by yourself. It's just, it's impossible, and you will get overwhelmed and frustrated. And this is exactly why most businesses do not know their numbers, because you have to know your numbers to be able to optimize, but you have to have help getting all those numbers, right? So let's look at the need. Just to say, here's what this looks like, pulling all this together. We start with your initial core content. From there, we're going to do copywriting, graphic design, video editing, social posting, paid ads management, and SEO optimization. And these are all tasks that are going to come underneath of here. It's kind of overwhelming. It's not something that you can do all on your own. And this is where we got into session number 3, which is hands-free content activation. We know that delegation is absolutely crucial to scaling. And here's the recap of it. We want that you cannot do it all yourself, and you should not do it all yourself. I had people in my beta group for this exact program that tried to do this all themselves, and ultimately they failed, right? But that's why we had to go back and get them help. With help, it's completely negotiable. You can absolutely do this. But a lot of times, if you are not doing it correctly, outsourcing can be super expensive and cause a lot more problems, right? So where we landed on session number 3 is knowing that having an in-house team is the most effective way to make this happen, to succeed at content activation. So let's look at, in order to avoid this numbers neglect, the number 2 profit killing and time sucking mistake that's keeping you from successful content activation, here's the keys. You need to have that metrics dashboard, and you need to know what statistics are going to go in it. You need to know what you're going to track in order to know how close you're getting to your goal, and to be able to set your targets. You have to start with your baseline, know where you're at, and set your targets so you know where you're going, right? Then we want to track the effectiveness of all of our activities, and are they moving us towards our goal or not? And most importantly, we need to delegate the tracking and updating of that metrics dashboard so that you can make strategic decisions based on the right data. Now, what that looks like here in terms of I can't say that word, visualization is, you want to start with you as the visionary, as the leader, and you want to have a content activator under you that you can delegate this to, right? The way this works is when they have repeatable steps and processes that they can continue to go to over and over, right? And then they are updating your metrics dashboard. So you are getting this updated loop. You're getting the statistics and the information you need to create the right strategic decisions for your business without having to get involved in the back end of all that minutia, right? So that leads us to the number 1 profit killing and time sucking mistake, keeping experienced digital marketers from successful content activation. And that is the delegation debacle. And in here, there's so much of hiring the wrong people, having to train them, or having them try to do too much. You end up spending too much. The problems are without having that repeatable process with SOPs or standard operating procedures, it just creates a bigger mess. And as we grow and scale, we know that eventually we run out of capacity and we have to outsource or delegate. So there's so many common mistakes. Like literally the path that people go through is the same thing over and over as business owners. And most of them can end up costing you more time and money and ultimately lead to more frustration and overwhelm. Who here has hired somebody and it like totally failed? And it's part of the problem is because instead of having a process set up, you're just like, here, go figure it out for me. Well, then they're just stuck right in the same problem. So what usually happens is entrepreneurs will like start off on services like Fiverr or whatever, and then they'll move to hiring a VA, and then they can hire agencies. And each one of those moves ends up creating different problems. So here's what it should look like. Here's how this should operate for your content activation machine, right? There's you have a content activator. That activator knows these repeatable steps. So they are able to, it's the same thing that happens over and over when they're taking your core content and running your content machine, right? So they're taking this thing and outsourcing out to these people. Now, these are still outsourced problems that could cause problems, or outsourced people that could cause problems. But because we're doing the same repeatable steps over and over, this person can easily manage all of these things because it's literally cookie cutter, same thing over and over. So then your content activator also takes care of your social posting, your paid ads setup and management, and your SEO optimization. Again, these things sound daunting, but with the right training, and they are repeatable systems again, over and over. So we want to, they can easily perform these things. And see at the bottom of each of these is statistics reporting and our Google Analytics data, right? So we're taking all of this information, we're feeding this back up into your metrics reporting. So they are updating this dashboard so that you are getting the information you need to make the right strategic decisions. And this loop just continues here while your content activator continues this loop over and over, right? This is ultimately how it should work in order to avoid all of that frustration and overwhelm. So the reason that works is because you need a team to run the Death Star, right? In order to create a super effective marketing tractor beam here, all of these things need to be taken care of, and all of these things need to be tracked and measured so that as you are coming back in here and you're creating, like you're creating this core message right here, right? As you're creating this content, you want to be the most efficient possible and have all of the data at your fingertips. So you're making the most optimized strategic decisions that's going to give your team what they need to continue creating this tractor beam and bring people into your world and ultimately up your value ladder. So in order to avoid the number one profit killing and time sucking mistake that's keeping you from successful content activation, the delegation debacle. Wow, alliteration is not amazing when you're trying to talk fast. So here's the things that will give you the cure for the delegation debacle. You have to know what your system and your goals are before you're actually hiring anybody. And when you're hiring for your team, you have hired and trained and you have standard operating procedures, those SOPs outlined. So it's very much, you can just plug somebody in here. I want you to learn this. I want you to go do these things. And you have these strong repeatable systems in place that is going to put your content activation on repeat, ultimately creating your in-house content cash machine, which is epically where we want to go, right? Okay, so, still with me? That was a lot. I know we just covered a lot. This is the whole content activation masterclass. Now, if you have not caught up on any of the past episodes, or you would like to, you can totally go here. There we go. And that will get you registered. You'll get instant access to all of these as well as any other replays. Each one of these has a nice download guide that can go along with it. But to recap again, we know here that content activation is absolutely the key. It saves time and money. It saves that frustration and overwhelm. And with this entire masterclass, you have all the steps to do it. So you know you're going to start with great content and organic traffic. That Google juice really, really matters. We want to repurpose your content for SEO and social, giving you that omnipresence factor, right? And we want to use paid traffic to support what's happening here with your repurposing, and cut ad spend, by the way, our 50% ad reduction. And we know that delegation with systems and processes is completely essential. So this is the place where yes, I do have a program, and I'm going to actually talk about what our program does and how it answers these questions. So this is the place where it's like, okay, she's going to go pitch me something and I don't want it. But here's the deal. You know that this is absolutely essential. If you understand all of this, you can see why it is so imperative that this ends up in your business and that you can't do it alone. So it could be that this is going to give you some ideas, or it could be your golden ticket, or like in my world, that's the paddock pass, right? But I just want to invite you to play along for a few minutes and just pay attention just for a little bit longer, because this could be the thing that you need. It could give you some ideas. It could give you some inspiration. And if it's a fit, this is literally going to save you so much more time and money. I can tell you guys, I have been testing and developing and really putting all of these processes into action over the last 3 years. And I tried and failed many times. And I can guarantee you have these steps. You can go hire somebody and you're going to fuck it up just like I did multiple times, right? And that's okay. If that's how you learn and that's how you want to go, awesome. But if there is anything in here that will help save you some of that wasted time and money and all that frustration, then stick with me, because I'm going to share with you our program and how we have effectively put on, done for you, all of these steps. All right. So come along with me. And remember, you stay to the end. I'm still going to share that amazing guide with you. Right. All right. Here we go. So it all starts with having a core strategy. And our core strategy is in the name of, we call it the organic leads machine. Here's what it looks like. This is right here at the core. This is you. You're going to start right here developing that initial core content or using some that you have already created. We have here the Paddock Club, which I'm going to talk about. This is where we go for support and service and anytime we have questions, right? And so you're going to start off here with your core, and then we're going to be developing right inside of here the shape, target, and reach. So we're looking at core strategy. This is STR, right? So in here, what we're developing is we're setting those targets. We're figuring out what your numbers are. We're figuring out where you need to be to get that omnipresence factor. We're figuring out who you are targeting and what content we need to be sharing with them at what point in the journey, like where your content is going to land on the content activation formula Death Star, right? Then this is the only part that you as the business owner are actually involved in. From there, you go out and your content activator runs the rest of these steps. So they work on the rest of the strategy, right? And this process out here continues on repeat. This is your organic lead machine. This just continues to run over and over, bringing you the leads. So let's dive in. I'm going to show you guys kind of behind the scenes what this looks like. And I have a ton of different programs and things in here that I'm going to share with you guys. So I'm just going to keep a value ticker rather than trying to do the whole stack thing for you multiple times at the end, right? All right, so here's what we have. Remember mistake number one? This was our rotten repurposing major mistake, right? And in here, we want we have our content repurposing system, which helps you easily identify what old content to repurpose. So you're maximizing your efforts, and you can easily fill like 3 months worth of content, socially engaging content, fill up that entire content activation Death Star. And this is what we're going to share here in Organic Leads Machine. So we're starting out just with the value of the Organic Leads Machine and the content repurposing. Here's our increased value. Okay. Next up, we have mistake number 2. Yes, we are solving it with the Organic Leads Machine. This is the blogging hack that that we came up with that actually creates the SEO optimized content, and how to use that same content to create your social posts and paid ads and those kinds of things. So with that, we call it the boosted blog strategy. And this is, we have a visual guide. So it's literally like, okay, you've repurposed your content here, and now you're going to take this and put it here and this and put it here, and instantly created a blog, right? Okay. And we also have the Google Juice Grab. This is the strategies that we use to squeeze the most from your content. Keyword research, simplified. And in here, we're including all of this. I'm adding that value in. Okay. So now mistake number 3, the paid Passover. Are we answering this? Absolutely. So I'm going to help you set up an internal agency that's not running on the same rules that other agencies run, right? So what we're doing is we're going to give you the Facebook ads algorithm hack, the methods that we use for paid traffic that not only support your SEO efforts, but also cut the traditional costs by at least 50%. This alone could be a standalone course very, very easily, right? This is absolutely imperative as part of the whole. So we have to include this. And it has been simplified down enough with all of the checklists and procedures and everything. So it's literally something that anybody can follow along step by step by step. All right, so now let's get into mistake number 4. We're curing the numbers neglect by actually setting your target goals right from the start. So your team knows where to aim for. And this is actually the very first module that you start off as the business owner. So you are part of this one as part of your core, and you do not get access to the rest of the stuff. Now you can if you want, but you should not be working in the rest of this program, right? So that includes our visual roadmap bonus, which is simplifying your business by mapping it out. So we're actually teaching your content activator how to map out what the business looks like. This is the same system that I use for my $10,000 retainer clients. And I'm teaching the exact same system and models that I'm using so that you can have that same visualization effect of what's happening in your business right here for included in this program, right? Okay, mistake number 5, the delegation debacle. Of course, we're solving this. This one is so amazing. I have partnered with a company that specializes in hiring, and they already have a pool of people that are matched up in terms of talent and qualifications to be a content activator. They will meet with you and match to your company needs, right? We're going to actually find and vet the potential candidate. We're going to plug them in. You're going to hire them. We will train them and certify them, and they will come to us for support. And if you already have somebody on your team that you're like, no, this is my perfect person, then we're going to meet with you and work with you and your team to help get you guys started on the right place. So we're totally including this. This was the number one biggest problem that anybody in our beta group ran into, was having the right person or not having a person to begin with. So we are actually including the hiring of a person to be your content activator, right? To run this machine in your business, which is amazing. I am so excited about this. All right, so we are also including the coordination cure, which is a bunch of templates and strategies. We're literally training your content activator on what stuff to go to you for with questions, when to come back to you with numbers and ideas. And this is like we're helping to train in to support your company culture. So we're adding to our value counter here. All right. We also including, this is so important, our project briefs and our SOPs. So we are literally giving the step-by-step instructions here on how to run this entire system. And we are sharing all of that with your content activator as part of our training, right? We also have our team targeting, which this is what I talked about. I want to really absolutely say this is, we're going to the Philippines so that it costs you the least amount of money out of pocket, but we have a hiring team. Like if you went out and hired or had somebody hire a new team member for you, you're going to pay $3,000 just for that headhunting fee either way, right? So we're totally including that in this system. Amazing. All right. I'm also giving you the Paddock Club. The Paddock Club is not a horse barn. The Paddock Club is in Formula One racing. The Paddock Club is sort of the elite box that sits right over pit lane. This is where you only go if you are the elite of the elite, and it gets you all that elite access, right? This is what our private group is called. And in here, I will be doing live support. You can go in and do questions. I will answer strategic questions for you as the business owner, but we're also providing tech support and questions for your content activator as they go through the entire process, right? So in there, we have this program is normally $500 a month. I'm giving you 3 months completely free. So we are including that into the value. And I'm going to talk about when you apply. Here's how it works. You're going to apply because this program is not for everybody. I need to make sure that it's actually going to be the right fit for you. And so we will actually, I will get on a call with, do you have the right team? Do you have the right, are you actually ready for this program? What are your hiring needs? Does that fit in with what we have worked with the hiring company for, right? Then you are going to get, if you're accepted, you will get access to the business owner course. And then you will also be able to add other people to the, you'll be able to add your content activator into the full program. Your content activator will learn all of the steps. So they're going to learn all of this. And you are only going to have to do these parts, right? Very minimal. We're trying to keep this as simple as possible for you as the business owner. All right. And we are also including some other extra bonuses. This is one of my favorites, the automated content calendar. We are sharing how to literally put creating all of the social content calendar, any of your content publishing on automated steps, right? It's very cool. Huge time savings. I'm also including our bridge story training, which is something that if you end up wanting to incorporate that into your content repurposing or into your content creation, that you can actually, it helps on how to tell a story, a personal story, and help bridge that across and pull that through into supporting your business message, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, like, is this just another program? Is this just another course? Because what normally happens with these things is engagement level is way off the charts in the beginning and then people drop off, right? So we, aside from having the Paddock Club and doing live transitions, we are actually also sharing each one of the steps. There's badges to be earned. So we have some fun gamification. There's a lot of badges. And at the end of it, you will actually be officially certified. Your company will be a content activated company. And you guys will get this is kind of a mock-up. It's still in production right now, but you will get a poster that is completely personalized and branded for you guys, and we will promote you as a certified content activator. All right, so here is what this stuff looks like. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I've already just gone through it and I'm apparently losing my voice, but here we go. This is the Organic Leads Machine program, and then all of the bonuses that we went through that help to overcome each of those profit killing and time sucking mistakes that are preventing you from successful content activation. So total value here, right? Now, is that enough? Should be, but of course there's more, because this is the first time we are bringing this program out to the public. I have tested this internally. I've tested this with paid individual clients, and I ran a beta program, right? This is a proven process, but this is the first time that we are rolling this out to the public. So I am bringing some extra bonus stuffs because you're here with me now, right? And these are things that we are normally going to be upselling after the fact. And if you end up purchasing in our open window here before the end of next week, I will be including all of these things for you at no extra charge. So what we have here, the first one is the team playbook. What we're doing is actually taking all of those SOPs, those checklists, and printing them into a workbook. And this is not the actual thing because this is still being printed, but we are creating a whiteboard that is going to be customized for your dashboard, so that your matrix dashboard, you can put it up on your wall and you can see where you are and what your targets are and where you're going at any point in time, because it's that important. Okay. And let's see here. Okay, we'll pull our extra value up in here. This is so cool. So we are using ClickUp right now as our project management system. And so we have actually set up, I've spent hundreds of hours creating all of these different boards that go through and say, okay, here's our process, right? Here's our core content. And then when I click that and say, okay, the core content is done, then it automatically creates tasks for delegation, outsourcing, all of that for the next steps, right? Once those steps are done, then it goes into production, and so we have all these other steps that are automatically generated that completely automates your content calendar. So it literally takes, okay, we have your core content here. Now I'm going to post these 10 posts on Facebook, these 10 posts here, and it sets the dates and times for all of these things. So I'm going to share these ClickUp boards with you included in the program. And the last bonus, this one is so amazing. Okay, so we talked so much about the Google Juice, and keyword research is super, super important for Google Juice. It's so important. Now, it's also a foreign thing, and it can be a difficult thing until you start doing it over and over. It's a tough thing to learn. So I've broken it down as simply as I can. But even in our beta group, there are some of the most questions that we had were around, am I doing this research right? Am I doing this right? And it can be a daunting thing. So I want you to remember, I talked about my friend Holly Homer, who was the amazing expert blogger, right? She learned all of her SEO tactics from her mentor, who was a true SEO expert. So I am actually working with Lori, who is her mentor. I have partnered with Lori to include for you guys SEO content analysis. This is competitive analysis by Lori and her team to help create this keyword list. So you're actually, instead of having to go do the research, she literally takes, here's your top keywords, and she goes through literally like 300,000 lines of code and pulls all of that back together. And then gives you a list and says, here are the top topics that you could be ranking on, or you should be ranking on to get that Google juice, right? So instead of having to create all this, do all this research, you actually can reverse engineer it and just go, oh, okay, I can make this keyword fit. We had her do this for us. I spent more than this to have it done for us. And I can tell you, it's completely worth it. So here is what we are doing. She is including this for us, for anybody that jumps on board with this program before the close of our open enrollment, right? Okay, so that is all of the bonuses included. Look at this amazing stack. So awesome. Here's our extra 3 bonuses, and we are at a total value here of $26,749. And of course, that is not what I am going to charge you. Here is what I'm going to charge you. $4,997 or 3 payments of $1,997. Now, I want you to think about the last time that you did a launch and spent Facebook ad money. If you're anything like me, I spent well more than $10,000, more than $20,000. This program, like what I'm telling you, is literally, the program itself is $5,000. We are going to find a team member. We're going to train them. You're going to be paying them. So you're going to pay your team member probably $1,000, $1,500 a month, something like that. You are going to pay for the production of some of your assets, so the copywriting, the graphic assets, those kinds of things, and a little bit of paid traffic, right? So we can set this whole machine up. So in 3 months, it's going to cost you less than $10,000. And you are going to have a team, an internal content team that's trained and supported and knowledgeable. And you don't have to do any of the training or any of the tech or any of that. That's literally all we're doing, right? So if this sounds appealing and you're interested, go check this out here. You can become a content activator. You can go to organicleadsmachine.com and apply. It's just $997 down. If you are not the right fit, I will end up refunding that. Is at 100% refundable deposit. So let's get on your application call. Go make your application, fill that out, and I will be happy to review if this is the right fit or not. And I promise you that I have turned people away from this before in the past. So, and for those of you who stuck around here till the end, the free gift, that download is also on this page. So just go to the Organic Leads Machine and you can grab that download. And if you're ready, hit your application. And either way, I want you to take these amazing steps and tools, learn how to avoid these mistakes, and go, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Stop giving all your money to Facebook and start grabbing that organic juice. Don't repurpose bad stuff. Grab the Google juice and use some paid traffic to support it. Those steps are absolutely going to skyrocket your business, even if it's not with us. But I invite you to apply, and hopefully, let me see if there's any questions in here. All right. If there's anything that you have any questions, there should be, I should probably put up this here. There you go. If you have any questions, there should be chat widgets all over the place. Again, conversation marketing, right? And we have personalized this by using the application. So taking our own medicine, doing what we are talking about and sharing that actually works here. So thank you so much for sticking around here. I know this was really long, but I hope, excuse me, I hope that there's some good valuable information in here. If you are also not registered for the rest of the content masterclass sessions, you can go register here real quick and download excuse me, and download the guides. And I will see you. I'm all choked up. All right. I will see you on your application. Excuse me.